Imagine a world where the FBI wasn't the hunter, but the hunted. A world where shadowy crime bosses pulled the strings, bribed politicians, and ruled America's underworld like kings. For decades, the Mafia seemed untouchable, their codes of silence, their power, their blood oaths, stronger than the law itself. But what if I told you that the FBI found a way to outsmart the very empire of organized crime, not with bullets, not with muscle, but with patience, cunning, and a plan so clever it nearly rewrote the rules of the game? For most of the 20th century, organized crime wasn't just a shadow on America's streets. It was the shadow. The Mafia controlled gambling, unions, construction, and drugs. Their grip reached into Hollywood, Las Vegas, and even the very halls of politics. Everyone knew they existed, but few dared to speak against them. They had the money, the guns, and the silence of fear on their side. Whenever law enforcement tried to move in, witnesses disappeared, juries were bribed, and cases fell apart. The message was clear. The Mafia was untouchable. But the FBI was watching, and they were tired of losing. They knew brute force would never work. You couldn't storm the Mafia with raids and expect them to crumble. Every man was replaceable, every soldier sworn to secrecy. To win, the FBI had to change the rules. They had to get inside the very heart of organized crime and make the mob destroy itself. The plan wasn't about power, it was about patience. Step by step, the Bureau began to plant ears where the Mafia least expected. A tiny bug slipped into a restaurant ceiling, a microphone hidden inside a mobster's car. Hours upon hours of tape that, at first, seemed meaningless. Men talking about dinner, about family, about nothing at all. But buried inside those whispers were codes, instructions, and deals worth millions. Slowly, painfully, the FBI began to translate the language of the underworld. What once looked like meaningless chatter became evidence. What once was silence became a weapon. And then came the undercover operations. Agents willing to live double lives, wearing hidden wires, shaking hands with men who would have killed them if they knew the truth. The Donnie Brasco operation, where an FBI agent infiltrated the Bonanno family for 6 years, proved it could be done. One man living as a mobster, eating with them, earning their trust, and all the while feeding information to the Bureau. That single operation alone crippled a family that once seemed unbreakable. But the FBI wasn't satisfied with just one family. They wanted the commission itself, the ruling council of the American Mafia, the bosses of bosses, men who believed they were invisible, untouchable, eternal. Through relentless wiretaps, undercover deals, and informants flipped from the inside, the FBI built cases that reached to the very top. By the mid-1980s, indictments rolled out like thunder. In the famous commission case, bosses who had ruled the streets for decades suddenly found themselves behind bars, their power stripped away not by rival bullets, but by paperwork, wire recordings, and courtroom evidence. It was the ultimate twist. The Mafia, an empire built on silence and secrecy, had been betrayed by its own words. Conversations once spoken in whispers became the rope that tied them to prison walls. The FBI hadn't needed a war, they hadn't needed armies, they just needed patience, intelligence, and the courage to play the long game. And in that game, organized crime finally lost. But here's the question that lingers. What if the FBI hadn't outsmarted them? What if they'd failed, and the Mafia remained untouchable? Would American cities still bend to the will of crime bosses? Would entire industries still be run from smoky back rooms instead of boardrooms? The story of the FBI versus organized crime isn't just history, it's a reminder. A reminder that power built on fear can seem eternal, until someone dares to listen closely enough to bring it crashing down.